We know there is still a lot of misinformation, disinformation, fake news, deep fakes, and denial about climate change. I'm recording this in June 2025 and well into the 21st century, and still we are dealing with vested interests who will keep on putting out misinformation about climate, climate change, climate solutions, climate actions, adaptation, mitigation, and so on. And you know who I am talking about, but nonetheless, this is more specifically about mapping, understanding, and reducing belief in misinformation about electric vehicles. You can imagine how many sectors will have vested interest in this. Fossil fuels industry, let's say, internal combustion engine industry, and various other ideological groups. But misinformation about electric vehicles poses significant challenges to the global transition to energy efficient transportation. We investigated the prevalence of misinformation about EVs, predictors of misinformation endorsement, and two potential interventions for reducing its impact. I would say if we keep producing EVs that are cheaper, affordable, and can deal with range anxiety and other issues, then maybe the dealing with misinformation will not be that difficult. People tend to go for solutions rather than advocacies and so on. The challenge will be, of course, whether you can continue to subsidize them from the government side, and that's where all the opposition may also come from, right? If you're selling internal combustion engine or a gasoline car and then people are getting subsidies for buying EVs, then obviously you're not going to be happy. Surveys across 4 countries with a number of participants being 6,341. These surveys are designed very well, so the numbers may look small compared to the total population, but they are very representative in terms of the deductions you can make from the surveys. So surveys across 4 countries revealed that more respondents agreed with misinformation statements about EVs than disagreed with them, which means misinformation is succeeding. Whereas education played no role. That's even more worrisome. In study 3, with 1,500 participants, we tested 2 interventions, a fact sheet and dialogues with artificial intelligence like ChatGPT for reducing belief in misinformation and increasing pro-EV policy support, and purchase intentions. Are people buying EVs even if they're expensive because they are progressive and worried about the environment, or are they associating themselves with brand names like Tesla as a status symbol and so on? But we have to use whatever advantage we have in helping people go to EVs. Of course, we have to move the energy production also to renewables, because if you have a lot of EVs but they're being charged with fossil fuels, then you may not gain much. Both strategies showed modest effectiveness immediately post-intervention, and positive effects on misinformation beliefs remained significant at a 10-day follow-up. So it didn't go away. Our results highlight the prevalence of EV misinformation, the role of mistrust in shaping it, and the potential for conventional and novel information strategies to reduce it. Electric vehicles play an important role in tackling climate change. Over their lifetime, EVs have lower total greenhouse gas emissions compared to internal combustion engines, even when accounting for emissions from electricity generation and battery production. So that's an important point, but we still want to go for renewables and battery life cycles. Despite these benefits, EVs have legitimate limitations that blur positive sentiment. Scholars, for example, have stressed that by still relying on individual-based mobility as opposed to shared mobility, EVs do not help resolve problems with congestion, accidents, and quality of public transportation, nor do they promote healthier forms of mobility. So you must also include public transportations. Maybe electrified trains are not very common, but moving transportation of goods and services, large duty vehicles, and shared mobility as well as electric buses and so on. There are many ideas being tried already, even in places like Bogota, Colombia, for example. There are buses that come on the road and then can flip the wheels and become trains and go on the track, so you don't have a last mile issue in terms of connecting people. Many consumers express legitimate anxiety that battery of an EV will run out of charge before reaching the destination or a charging station, or that EV's fires are difficult to extinguish. So all kinds of real issues like range anxiety, but also misinformation about fires. So there are other concerns that are more grounded in myth. For example, despite lithium-ion batteries in EVs being less likely to catch fire than gasoline vehicles on per vehicle basis, EVs have been described in the media as highly combustive, like a bomb. Other concerns expressed in consumer reports include discredited notions that EVs are less safe in a collision than traditional vehicles, that EVs emit electromagnetic fields that damage health, and that lifespan carbon emissions of EVs exceed those of traditional cars. So very easy to spread such rumors, but people believe them, and even if they are educated, they believe them, then we have issues. Statements such as these can be classified as misinformation, defined as information that relative to scientific evidence is deceptive or misleading and stands in contrast to discourse from institutions adhering to scientific principles. Okay, so jump ahead, just look at the kinds of misinformation that's being looked at in this paper through surveys across 4 countries. So responses, of course, range from don't know, neither agree or disagree, disagree and agree. So I won't go into the details of percentages, but the issues being considered: manufacturing outweighs lower emissions. So you can tell people EVs emit low once produced, but the production itself is producing a lot of emissions. Magnetic fields harm birds. Mining accelerates deforestation. So obviously EVs need nickel, cobalt, lots of minerals. Batteries require rare earth elements and so on and so forth, so metals, etc. So obviously mining is a concern, but is it accelerating deforestation? Magnetic fields lead to health issues. EVs are more likely to catch fire. Batteries are designed to fail. Batteries are deliberately non-upgradable, so you know it becomes a cost issue. If you buy with a new battery but you cannot upgrade it, or you cannot charge or exchange it and so on. So all fake news, of course, but EVs are intentionally complex to prevent do-it-yourself kind of repairs. EV accidents are underreported, and this is about aggregate information measures. So these are countries considered here in terms of Germany, Austria, Australia and USA. So each one is for those countries and for people who don't know, agree, disagree and so on. Aggregate misinformation measure, again you can see various levels of people's belief, disbelief, disagreement and so on. Summarizing that, total proportion of responses per response category across all misinformation items and countries. So they created 4 response categories: agree, disagree, neither agree or disagree and don't know. Sample size is 4,184. Don't know at 17%, agree at 36.2%, disagree is quite high at 23.1%, and we'll also look at numbers after interventions. Neither agree or disagree is also quite high at almost 24%. So this together is much larger than you would want, especially if you also consider don't know. So agree then just becomes about 1/3. Standardized standardized linear regression coefficients and 95% confidence intervals per outcome variables. So there are some details on how this is done. So outcome variable, various items here, these are standardized coefficients, so they are indicators, negative and positive numbers. If you want to go into the details, you can read the paper. Coefficients greater than So they are looking only for statistically significant numbers. Statistical tests were two-sided. The reference groups for gender, region, education, and country are respectively male, large city, no university degree, and Germany. Positive betas indicate that scores were higher in the predictor category than the reference category, and negative they were lower. So it's how you do these tests. You have a predictor variable. Will people agree or disagree? So conspiracy mentality, EV misinformation agreement, and EV policy support are lower than the predictor category in the compared to the reference category. So I will not do that for each one of them, but let's just look at the outcome variable. Pro-ecological worldview, environmental identity, scientific knowledge, cognitive reflection score, political ideology, age, of course, gender and region, rural versus town versus city, education, university level or so, country, USA, Austria and Australia. So it gives you a sense that the study addresses many potential human confirmation bias, negativity bias kind of issues, and whether they are related to education or not. So revised misinformation and truth items. What is constructed? Agreement with what is the construct? Agreement with misinformation about electric vehicles and agreement with true claims about electric vehicles. So item, due to the we'll read a couple of examples. Due to the resource intensity of the production process, electric vehicles produce more carbon emissions across their lifespan than petrol cars do. Obviously not correct. Compared to petrol car technology, electric vehicle technology is designed to be unnecessarily complex to prevent do-it-yourself repairs and force people into expensive service centers. Not true at all. Electric vehicle accidents are deliberately underreported by authorities. Absolutely insane. And in agreement with the true claims about electric vehicles produce zero tailpipe emissions, thereby producing fewer greenhouse gas than petrol cars in the life cycle sense as well. This is true. Despite the energy being used to recharge the batteries, and including production emissions. Compared to petrol cars, electric vehicles produce fewer pollutants like nitrogen oxides and particulate matter, improving air quality and public health. True. Compared to petrol cars, electric vehicles reduce reliance on imported oils and fossil fuels, contributing to national energy security and reducing the impact of oil price fluctuations. And electric vehicles are generally cheaper to run than vehicles using petrol or diesel. Okay, so one more figure. Overall, agreement with misinformation and truth items, wording original and amended. Okay, so agreement depends very much on the original and amended. So EV owner, non-EV owner, EV owner, non-EV owner in terms of misinformation and truth. You can see immediately these are higher here, and non-EV owner is agreement is lower with truth, whereas in the misinformation it's only slightly higher with the non-EV owner compared to EV owners, but there are other details that we will look at in a minute. Okay, so overall agreement with misinformation A and truth items per wording condition and EV ownership. So in surveys, wording always matters, and these people are usually experts at it, so they would have taken care of how to ask the question to get the right intent, right answer in terms of what you are looking for in the belief in or agreement or disagreement with misinformation and belief in truth and so on and so forth about EVs, not generally. EV misinformation agreement, so they did some interventions as well. Agreement with EV misinformation policy support and purchase interventions, agreement with EV misinformation, EV policy support and EV purchase intentions for each experimental condition across 2 time points. In the AI conditions, participants had 3 round of conversations with AI ChatGPT, either about EVs or their favorite sport. Data are presented, so you do EV to see how they believe or disbelieve truth or misinformation, and then you take some other topic like their favorite sport and see how they perceive the information from ChatGPT and AI in general. EV misinformation agreement after intervention is lower, but after 10 days it creeps back up, except this one where sport information actually has a positive gain in misinformation agreement. So people have these confirmation biases. So if you are already negatively leaning towards EVs, then intervention may help reduce the misinformation agreement, but it slowly increases, and that's for EV owners and sports and fact sheet. Okay, you get the idea that interventions may work temporarily, but over time they may not really be sustained. And this is this is with ChatGPT. This is EV. A is EV policy support, B is EV purchase and intentions, and C is for each experimental condition across 2 points. I won't go into the details. The main point is education may not matter so much for agreeing with misinformation, and interventions may have temporary spike in or temporary drop in misinformation belief, but slowly it may crap up because your confirmation bias catches up with you. Okay, social media plays into this. Basically, if you search for something, you will keep getting more information about the same things. So if you search saying what is wrong with EVs, you might keep getting more and more links to what is wrong with EVs, and half of that or most of that may be misinformation. I'll just read off a little bit about the discussion. Given the need to transition towards more sustainable transport options, the prevalence of misinformation on surrounding EVs is concerning. Overall, our samples were more likely to agree than to disagree with misinformation, which is bad news, and this was even true among those who owned an EV. So they bought it for whatever reason, but they believed the misinformation. Mainstream acceptance of misinformation was found across multiple domains, including concerns about secret activities to exaggerate the benefits of EVs, concerns about unethical, profit-driven decisions, and unfounded or exaggerated concerns about damage of EVs towards health and the environment. Across a range of items, our data highlight the broader challenge of clear science communication in an informational landscape shaped by myths, selective framing, and speculative reasoning that distort public understanding of EV impacts. Jumping ahead, all this optimism about AI helping and so on. However, it's important to temper the optimism with caution. It should be emphasized that we did not find robust evidence that the AI intervention outperformed the fact sheet intervention. If documents such as these had broad population penetration, there is not yet reason to think that they would be less influential than AI interventions. But when you are presenting fact sheets, there is another aspect. It's about credibility, legitimacy, and salience. Who is giving these informations with fact sheets? AI is something, it's online, and ChatGPT, you've heard about it, and then whether that will also end up giving you confirmation bias or just confirming your already existing biases has to be looked at. Okay, so there are also ongoing concerns about the integrity of AI tools, including the non-transparency of many AI algorithms, the lack of governance mechanisms applied to large technology companies in their development of AI, and the potential for manipulation and interference by bad faith actors. Deepfakes, for example. It also is important to state that ChatGPT and AI in general requires substantial amounts of energy and water, so it's going in a different direction, which we discussed in the case of AI and energy already. Therefore, to adequately evaluate the potential of interventions leveraging AI to combating climate change, we need to assess the extent to which the benefits of using AI outweigh AI's environmental impact. Everything is getting into AI, but now we have to worry about AI's energy and water consumption and how to make AI itself sustainable, in addition to making it honest, ethical, and not just biased and fake, right? In some AI interventions currently show promise, but their interventions need to be monitored closely to guard against declines in information integrity over time, because people who produce misinformation are also using AI to produce misinformation and send it to people based on their information that you glean, as we said, from searches, for example. Okay, it's an interesting topic, important topic, so just keep it in mind.